What's going on, everyone? Natt coming at you and bringing you a hero message today. So I'm wearing my X-Men shirt because we're going to hit hard. When it comes to achieving health, it's all about consistency. Consistency is one of the hardest things that anyone can do at any junction in their life, especially when they're dealing with other people, but especially when it comes to accountability. So when we think about consistency as a whole, as it pertains to fitness and being in the best shape of your life or achieving health or getting away from your illness, whatever that actually might be, people struggle with being on track. And if I think about it, I really constitute it down to three things. Now, it doesn't matter if you're focusing on weight loss. It doesn't matter if you're trying to focus on actually getting stronger or if you're trying to get off blood pressure medication, everything in between. These are the common variables that I see most consistent with people who are trying to actually get into better shape and they seem to lose track. Okay, so what do we hear? What do we see first? The number one thing, people lack clarity, right? If you're in a position where you don't have clarity and you don't know exactly what that is that you're pursuing, and you're just kind of going to the gym or you're just kind of working out or you're just trying to keep some sort of a diet, you're likely going to fall off because stuff's going to end up getting difficult, or you'll be swayed and influenced by the people or the environment around you that don't have any reasons either. Second, people put themselves in toxic environments. What do I mean by that? You might have a direct reason why you want to achieve something, and it's something that you've probably struggled with. Let's just hypothetically say it's something that you struggled with for a majority of your adult, or if not, all your life. That's great, but the person who works next to you probably doesn't have the same issue you do, and if they do, they might not be ambitious enough to change it. Why is that a problem? It becomes a problem because who you spend your time around ends up taking over your immediate conscious mind. And if you hear people over and over making suggestions or having negative self-talk, overall, that's minding your garden. If you're not weeding your garden and minding your garden, it's going to be kind of hard to navigate that process. And here's the third and the final one when it comes to staying on track. You bank on motivation. You might not even be conscientious of it, right? Because it's easy to set a goal. It's easy to get excited when you're excited. And when you see that thing and you can envision yourself achieving it, it creates sensation, and all that's great until you actually get into the process, and over time, motivation isn't there to be found. It's not there to be found when it's, cold outside, but it's warm in the bed. It's not there to be found when it's day, 4, 5, 6 of eating the same redundant, monotonous thing, and your body is craving that sugar, that hyper palatable food. And so motivation is no substitute for discipline. And if you're banking on motivation because it's a feeling and you're not even aware of that, you're probably going to find yourself in no man's land, and it's not going to be there for you. And it's like being caught in a car without gas. You've ever been in that position? So here are the three things that I want to give to you about how you can be able to improve these things. Starting with clarity, number one. Before you embark on any journey, you can definitely reach out to accountability. Now, this is a person who could be a friend, and that's great. It can even be a spouse, and that's even better. But ultimately, this needs to be somebody that you have rapport with, meaning you need to be able to know that they have your best interest at heart. All the while, you also need to be held accountable. So if you're not keeping your word to yourself, you want to make sure that you have a rapport with this person so that they can call you out on your bullshit and say, hey, this is what you said, but your actions aren't congruent with that. And if you're able to make those kinds of changes, you're more likely in the short term to have a couple wins. A couple wins stack up in the long run to a much bigger win, and a few big wins are what make the entire difference between you succeeding at something and not succeeding at something and ultimately staying on track. Number two, your environment. Being hyper aware of your frequent touches. In a week span, you might find yourself where I'm spending 80% of my time here, 20% of my time there, or 10% here, 10% there, 60% here, and another 10% here. Where you're conscientious with your most frequent touches, you can probably make the assumptions. Who are you going to connect with? What is the temperament of these people? Do these people have the kind of conversations, and do they invigorate you? Are they enthusiastic like you are about climbing up a mountain, something that they care about? Because that's also going to empower you to confide in them and to breathe life into their goal. Or are they the kind of person who is an energy vampire? When they talk, it's always a woe is me situation, or they're always pulling something down, or they're always distracting you and redirecting your focus. So by doing that, what is one simple thing that you can do to yourself is making the evaluation about where you're going to spend time, and then obviously knowing. When you know you're going to be in these situations, that's a perfect time to go and view your goals. Okay, Nick, You're going to be going over to this area, and this person over here is not very enthusiastic. They're all about going out and distracting you and not putting their energy into disciplinary things. Go over here and take a look at your goals. Is this so relevant to you? How important is this? Are you moving in that direction? Great. Because now when I find myself over here, I'm conscientious of the fact that I might need to avoid this person. Love them, care about them, but love them from a distance, or I mitigate the amount of conversation so that way I'm protecting my environment within sharing the same space. And the final one is that I already kind of gave you the cheat sheet. There's a difference between discipline and motivation. Motivation is like the warm bath water. You get it and it feels good, but over time, the temperature begins to change. It doesn't feel the exact same way when you got in, right? Well, discipline is great, especially when you have the motivation from the outside world, but that's really discipline because you're consistent. It's a skill. So where you start with discipline is about simple wins. So let's say that you're like, I'm gonna wake up every day and I'm gonna make my bed. Something that's super simple. Now that might be a struggle for you, but you might say, okay, what are the simple things that you know you can do without fail? If I asked you to do it 10 times in a week, you know without doubt you could do that for 10 times. The reason I talk about that is because of something called an internal reward system that happens in our mind and in our brain. When you have a win, what's happening is you're beginning to cultivate identity. I am the kind of person that says, if I do this, I'm going to keep my word. That not only is credibility to yourself, but it helps build and it helps cultivate discipline. When you do that, then you can take on a more daunting task. Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to have friction. You are. But your identity and the mentality in your head is, I'm going to do this because I am the kind of person that keeps her word, that keeps his word. And when you begin to have more wins like that, it's great. You ever notice that it's hard to build momentum and to do day one? But when you stack 15 days, now it's a little bit easier. It doesn't mean that it's hard, it just means you don't want day 16 to be the day that you mess up and have to start all the way over. And so the hardest part in the beginning is generating that momentum, but like compound interest, it gets easier with time. And starting with simple wins are gonna help you cultivate some days, some weeks, maybe even months, and that's where you're gonna begin to see the breakthrough. There's a lot more that I can get into this, and maybe you're like, yeah, Nick, but I have this thing that makes it super difficult for me to figure out how to stay on track when it comes to my fitness goals, and you didn't talk about that. I would love to have that conversation with you one way or another. One way that we can definitely facilitate and I can be more help to you and we can have these conversations is by subscribing to this YouTube channel. Subscribing to this YouTube channel is going to empower me to be able to have a connection with you so I can find the right topics that are going to be best serving to you, and then I can make a video about that, and in addition, then I can also connect with you on the Natt Fitness platform. Connecting with me on nattfitness.com is going to figure out exactly what it is you might be struggling with, how I or my team might be able to cater to you in a more systematic way, and that's going to make all the difference. I'm here to help, and we're not just here to provide spiritual entertainment, although the information is great. Ultimately, it's the information that goes in and what you do to go and put that information into action. I look forward to connecting with you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. This has been my hero message. I look forward to seeing you later. Nicholas Natt with Natt Fitness, signing off.